Hello, my name is Anthony Lloyd-Jones. I'm the author and illustrator of The Princess and the Fog, The Nervous Knight, and the upcoming The Elf, The Princess, and The Impossible Shoe, which I can't show you because it's not out yet, but it's going to look a bit like this. Today I'm going to show you how to draw the princess, a recurring character from my books, and we'll go through some of the techniques I use to make my illustrations, so you can illustrate along with me. I'll be going through things a bit faster than I normally do in this video, so I recommend watching the video all the way through once before starting, so that you get the idea. Then you can put it on a second time if you want to follow along. These are some of the materials I use. It's okay if you don't have this exact stuff. Art is all about experimentation. You can use whatever you prefer. So the first thing we're going to do is to draw a sketch. This doesn't need to be very detailed. Don't forget, we're going to be painting over the top of it. If it helps, you can get a reference picture and put that in front of you while you work, so that you can remember what the character looks like. Nothing wrong with using a reference. All the best artists use references. I'm going to use a 2H pencil because it's a nice thin line that doesn't show up very well once the paint and everything else is on top of it. You can use whatever you want. A normal HB or number 2 pencil would do, whatever you're comfortable with. You could even use a light colored pencil if that's all you've got handy. You know, art is all about experimentation, and you're going to make this picture your own. You might notice my paper has been taped to the desk. You don't have to do this. I find it helps. Once we start adding the wet materials like glue and paint, it stops the paper from warping so much, which is when the paper gets all wobbly you might have seen after you've done a painting. Up to you. So to start with, we're going to draw a nice big oval in the middle of the paper for the princess's head. This is where the face is going to go. You don't have to draw the face at this point, but it might help you to remember later on where the face is going to go. Then we draw this little 3-point tiara on the top of her head, sort of just 3 triangles smashed together. Big semicircle for the hair all the way down to where the shoulders are going to be. A thin neck, which is just 2 straight lines. A little semi-oval for the body. She wears these big poofy sleeves, so just draw a couple big circles on the shoulders for those, and then a couple lines to show the rest of her arms. And there she is. Next is one of my signature moves. We're going to select some collage material. So for this we just need a few scraps of colored paper. We're not going to cover the whole picture, just a few little details that match the colors that we want. Get a grown-up to help you cut out the pieces. Make sure you don't cut up anything important, or anything that you might need later. And especially, don't cut something that doesn't belong to you. Always ask permission first if you're not sure. I've gone with a couple colored bits that I clipped out of a magazine, and I found a nice orange stamp that will match the princess's hair. See what you can find that matches the colors of the picture that you want to draw. The tiara here is a complicated shape, and the little blue scrap that I found is a bit too big, so I'm going to actually copy the shape of the tiara onto the blue paper and cut it out. The other pieces can stay the shape they are, because there's still plenty of room to put them down without risk of them overlapping any of the lines. I like to use PVA glue, or you can use a glue stick. I'm just going to put some down on the bottom of the palette that I'm going to be using later, get it on the glue stick, spread it on the back, and stick it down. Use a little bit of tissue to dab up any excess, and there we go. And then you might need to take a little bit of time to let the glue dry. It'll be harder to work on top of if it's still wet. Once that's dry, we're going to start painting. Now I like acrylic paint. I got the primary colors here: red, blue, yellow, and white. And with those we can mix all the colors that we need for this particular picture. If you have more colors than that, feel free to use them. I'm just going to stick with the basics for this video, but it's up to you. If you don't have acrylic paint, you could try other kinds of paint. It doesn't have to be paint either. Coloring pencils, felt tip pens, crayons, whatever you want. And I'm just going to kind of go around the collage scraps that we've stuck down and fill in the spaces in between the lines that we drew. A bit like colouring in a colouring book. The tricky part is we are going to be covering up the lines, which might make it a little bit difficult to remember where the lines are supposed to be when we draw them on again at the end. That's another reason why the reference picture can be useful. Taking a picture of your sketch before you start adding the paint can help as well. So here I'm mixing up my orange. Orange is a little bit of red and a lot of yellow. The colours don't have to exactly match the collage material we put down, but you want them to be quite close. So I'm just going to put the paint down here. I'm going to let her hair go over her face a little bit. The brush I'm using is a bit too big for this hair that's sticking out the top of the tiara, so I'm switching to a smaller brush for these bits. Now, the princess's skin colour is quite similar to the orange we've already mixed. We just need to add a lot of white to it. Remember that you can make any colour lighter by adding white, or darker by adding a little bit of black. Next is blue, but if I put blue on this brush which already has orange on it, it's going to turn brown. So I'm going to need to wash the brush before I go any further. We put the blue on the dress and the tiara, and hey, it's looking pretty good. Even without the face, and without the lines and everything, it still looks like her. We're not done yet, of course. We're going to wash our brush so that it's ready for the next time we need it. And now we need to wait for it to dry again. Once it's dry, now for the lines. I like to use these fancy water-soluble wax crayons. Obviously you don't have to use these. You can use a regular crayon. You could use a big black colouring pencil if you want. You could use a felt tip pen. Something that comes out with a nice, bold, solid black line. Again, whatever you want. Even a small paintbrush with some black paint, whatever you got. If you start working with something and you don't think it's coming out right, don't be afraid to switch to something else. That can be a fun experiment in and of itself. So now we're going to draw the princess again, like we did with the sketch at the start of this video, but we're going to go into a bit more detail now. So, same lines as before, 3 triangles for the tiara, the big semicircles on the side of the head. This time, of course, we're going to add the face. So we've got 2 ovals, one on this side, one on this side. Her nose is kind of a line, 3 semicircles in different directions at the bottom there, and a big smile. She's in a good mood today. The hair's got these extra lines on them. It's okay if these overlap the collage stuff you've stuck down. You can avoid them if you want. I'm going to go right through them. We'll give her a little collar here, some little details on the sleeves, but the rest is exactly as we drew it at the beginning with the pencil. And I think that's it. I think that's good. What do you think? I'm pretty happy with mine. How did yours come out? It's okay if it didn't come out exactly like mine. This is your picture, and I'm sure it's great. So now you know. That's how I make my pictures for my books. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I hope you learned something, and I look forward to seeing you again.